Hi, Sandy, and today I'm bringing you my very small May wrap-up. In the month of May, I had a very not great reading month. I'm not gonna call it a bad reading month because I'm very aware that I read quite a lot. Like, I read probably way above average, maybe not way above average for like booktube, book talk, bookstagram, bookish people in general, but I know that in general I do read quite a lot. And so to say that I have had a bad month when I've read 6 books, for me it is a bad month. For most people that would be a fairly good month. So trying to look on the bright side, it is still a good reading month. I did still enjoy what I read. Overall it was a really good reading month. You know that the books I read I really enjoyed, and so I'm not mad. It's been a really rough month health-wise, and so I'm just happy that I managed to get some good reads in while I've been feeling like crap. But it does mean that for once you're probably going to get a nice brief video from me. And yes, I am pretty sure this jumper is just becoming my filming uniform at this point. I literally just come home from work and film, so I just fling on this because it's nice and cosy, and it's actually quite cool in the house. So, you know, sorry if you don't like me filming in the same outfit every time, but oh, sorry, I was going to do the thing that Vicky doesn't like. You get what you get, okay? I've not been well. If you want videos, then you're going to have to put up with it. If you don't want my videos, why are you even here? So yes, I'm going to take you through what I read in the month of May and stop bumping my gums about nothing in particular. The first thing I read in May, and I actually have a physical book to show you this time, is If Only You by Chloe Leese, and this is the 5th book in the Bergman Brothers series, and it follows Ziggy, who is the youngest of the Bergmans, and she's of course the second Bergman sister, Freya being the first and oldest Bergman sister. There's 7 siblings, 2 sisters, 5 brothers, and each book follows one of the siblings. Ziggy is the youngest. Her name is Sigrid. Ziggy is a nickname. And this follows Ziggy and Seb. Seb is one of her brother's friends, so her brother Ren, who is in the 2nd book. Seb is one of his teammates on the hockey team and one of his friends. And this book follows Ziggy as she is trying to sort of get rid of that good girl image that seems to have been following her around. Now, Ziggy also has autism, and because of her autism, she's kind of infantilized quite a lot. So people kind of see her as quite childlike and naive, and so a lot of people kind of try and protect her or talk down to her or sort of like, you know what I mean, they infantilize her, and she's getting really, really sick of it because she is a grown woman. She lives on her own. She's in her 20s. Like, she just wants to be treated like the woman she is. In comes Seb, who is the sort of bad boy in this scenario. He is well known for being bad news, and yet Ren, who is the cinnamon roll golden retriever of like cinnamon roll golden retrievers, is like best friends with this guy. He knows there is a heart of gold inside Seb, but all everybody else sees from Seb is just this bad boy image. He is known to just be this self-medicating, I'm not going to say alcoholic. I think alcoholic is probably quite like, I'm not saying he's not an alcoholic in the sense that like he needs to go to treatment. He's not an addict, but other people refer to him outside as an alcoholic. So there's no representation for like an alcoholic in this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like the reputation he's got is that he's always drinking and like carousing and things like that. Like he is that sort of like drunken bad boy image is what I'm trying to say. Does that make sense? And so he gets himself into trouble, and of course Frankie's his agent. And if we know Frankie from the 2nd book, Frankie does not take anybody's bill. And so she tells him to get his head out of his ass and clean up his image, or else. And when Frankie says or else, she means or else. Like, she means or else. Believe me. Or her stick is going up your butt. And so Seb has to try and find a way to clean up this image. And so Ziggy kind of decides they could have a mutually beneficial relationship. And by relationship, she means friendship, not relationship, because she would never think of having a relationship with one of her brother's best friends. No, not at all. Not at all. So of course you can see where this is going. And so they kind of like hang around with each other so that his grunge will rub off on Ziggy and her like shine will rub off on him, and they can kind of balance each other out. So this is kind of like a weird brother's best friend, friends to lovers, but not a friends to lovers in the way that like I don't like I'm not the biggest fan of friends to lovers, because this whole idea of like two people who've been around each other for so long and then suddenly realise that they've always been in love with each other and they just didn't realise kind of like bothers me. Like, I get the whole like this kind of friends to lovers where like you only start getting to know each other and like you grow a friendship and then you grow a relationship. Yeah, fine, fair enough. Like that's fine. That's getting to know each other. That makes sense. But this whole like childhood friends to lovers nonsense, that really, I don't like that. That annoys me, because I'm like, how is it you've only figured this out when one of you is away to get married? Suddenly you can't have the shiny toy in the box because someone else has chosen the shiny toy in the box. And now you want to tell them. That annoys me. That friends to lovers trope really, really irritates me, because it's like you're only placing value on that person when suddenly you can't have them. But that's by the by, because that's not what this is. Sorry, it took over for a second. This is them, like, the more they get to know each other, the more they learn to respect each other. And it's such a nice relationship to watch grow, because there is that level of mutual respect, because they have no expectations of each other. And it's just so organic. And Chloe Leese writes these characters in such a great way. And I think, to me, I wondered, like, I sort of thought out loud that maybe this was Chloe Leese writing the most of herself into a book, because Chloe Leese herself has autism. She is an autistic woman, and so she probably felt a lot of this, the way Ziggy did, because I know that like a lot of disabled people are infantilized, and especially probably autistic. I don't know, I'm not autistic, I've never experienced that, but I can imagine the kind of frustration that was coming out in the book kind of felt personal. And so I kind of wondered if that was maybe something that Chloe Leese had experienced, and if that's where she was coming from with this book. But again, great representation. We've got a bisexual character and a pansexual character. So we've got a bisexual female character and a pansexual male character, which I loved, as you can imagine. You can just imagine my little pansexual heart was like, whoo! Like, I love it. Like, and none of them were even remotely bothered about it. Like, they told each other and they were just like, cool. Moving on with the conversation. There's also representation in here for celiac disease, because one of the characters has celiac disease and does not know it, and that is very, very painful. Very, very painful, as you can imagine. I just love this. Again, I love how much disability rep Chloe Leese has in her books. Absolutely love this. I love these two, and they're so cute, and I'm so sad that I've finished the series, but we still have one more book to talk about. And that is Only and Forever, which follows our last Bergman, who is Viggo. I was going to call him Oliver because Oliver and Viggo get mixed up all the time, and now I'm doing it. So we have Viggo and Tallulah. Tallulah, who has type 1 diabetes. As you can see, she's got her little port here. It's not a port. I don't know why I cannot get this name straight. It's a little scanner thing, so it measures her blood glucose. And Tallulah herself is also a fat character. And it is something she's very much not self-conscious about. There are things in her past where people have tried to make her feel self-conscious about it, and it does, like, there are sometimes like thoughts that will pop into her head about it, but she is very much confident in herself, and she loves her body, and she will wear what she wants to wear, and Viggo loves her body. Like, I love this kind of representation as well for fat bodies. And I love the fact that they've left that bulge in her thigh here, like the rolls and stuff. Like, this is what we need. Like, we need more diversity in characters like this. So we have here Viggo and we have Tallulah. And we'll be like, I'm going to try and talk about this without spoiling the rest of the series, because this does come with massive spoilers for something that happens in another book, so I don't want to I don't want to spoil it. But basically, Viggo's had a secret, and in this, obviously, the secret is revealed because this is from his point of view. And in this whole scenario, where Viggo's secret is revealed, Tallulah is also in a scenario where suddenly she finds herself with nowhere to live, and so she moves in with her sister, who lives very close to Viggo, and Viggo has a spare room, and he's like, would you like to move in with me and help me with this thing, because I need help with this thing and I have no money to pay someone to help me with this thing, so that could be your rent. And she's like, sure. Tallulah is also a fairly well-known horror writer, but she's got like writer's block for writing her next novel, and the situation she's in isn't really helping because she's literally sleeping on her sister's couch. Tallulah and Viggo as well, they are totally opposite characters. Tallulah does not believe in love. She doesn't believe that love is a real thing because of the way of her upbringing was. Her family were quite like, her parents were famous, so her sister is friends with Ziggy, and her sister's a professional football player like Ziggy, and their parents were famous, or are famous, and they're very famously on again, off again in this marriage, and that affected their kids very, very badly. Her brother is in and out of rehab. I think he's in rehab at the time of the book. Her sister doesn't really talk about their parents an awful lot, and Tallulah was the one that kind of tried to protect her siblings from what was going on. And so because of that trauma that she faced when she was younger, she just does not believe in love. Viggo, on the other hand, is the most hopeless of hopeless romantics, and he just is waiting for his romance to happen. He is a massive romance book nerd. He has a host of plants named after prolific romance writers, including some I have on my shelf. And he thinks that his true love will arrive in the way of a romance novel. Like, how things go in a romance novel, he thinks that's how he will find his true love. And so he's got this idea of how formulaic his love life is supposed to go. And of course, Tallulah just arrives and just wrecks that whole scenario, because things with these two do not go how they are meant to go, or meant to go in his mind. But they just work so well together. They complement each other so well, and they just... I like this as well because it's not that Tallulah has to change completely to, like, the way she sees love is quite, it's not that she's like changed so like suddenly she sees love. I'm really bad at describing this, because even down to the point where like she has quite a, not a strange, but like an unhealthy relationship when it comes to attachment, even with her own siblings and with anybody else in her life. And she doesn't believe that she can love her siblings or her friends, family in it. She doesn't believe in love, that she can love anybody. She doesn't believe that anybody loves her. She doesn't believe that love is real at all. She just doesn't think that what people call love is love. And she just go through like therapy and stuff like that for it. It's a whole process and thing because of the trauma that she went through as a child. And she has to come to terms with the fact that like that's not normal. Like what she went through wasn't normal, and that the way that our parents behaved isn't a reflection on how Tallulah should be treated. Like, she deserves to be loved. Everybody deserves to be loved. And yes, her sister does love her. And yes, that feeling that she has towards her sister, that is love. She just doesn't, it's almost like she refuses to put a name on it. She says it's a different thing. She doesn't recognise it as love. And so it's this it's her trying to understand, or learning to understand what love is, instead of just straight up saying she doesn't believe in it. It's so hard to understand until you read the book, but it's not this whole thing of like just trying to convert her. And the same with Viggo. It's not about making him change who he is completely. These two really do complement each other very well, and it's very hard for me to explain. It's something you really do need to read through the book, because they are living to very extremes, and they really need to work towards like coming to a healthy place. And I really appreciate that about this book. Like, they are not in a place that is healthy for someone to be able to sustain mentally and like emotionally. So yeah, I love this book. I love how I just love these two. I love these characters. I love the fact that Chloe Elise doesn't shy away from the things that she does in these books. But again, we've got, you know, Tallulah representing our disabled character. She has type 1 diabetes, and again, she doesn't shy away from the fact that it's not like a perfect case of like, oh, she's got diabetes, let's never mention it again. She has to think about the food that she's eating. She has to think about the amount of insulin that she's using because it is expensive and she doesn't have insurance, and even when she does have insurance it doesn't always cover it, and the American healthcare system is a mess, and like there are so many things that are taken into consideration in this book, and it's not the biggest book, but the amount she can cram in there is so good. Like, I am blown away by Chloe Elise every single book, and this is no different. Next, I read Zachary Young and the Dragon Emperor by Jiren J. Zhao. This is a Chinese emperor retelling. I don't know why I always say it like that. This is a retelling of the first Chinese emperor, and it is told in a way where Zachary is a Chinese American kid. So his parents lived in China, they grew up in China, and he was born in China, and his parents are Chinese Muslim, and so because China at the time is not friendly to Muslims, China right now, as far as I can tell in this book, like in the present, is not friendly to Muslims, and so they move to America. Him and his mum move to America when his dad is killed, and he kind of grows up in America and doesn't really know his Chinese roots very well. And this is told, you're kind of learning the Chinese history as Zachary is learning the Chinese history. So there's a lot of information being told at you and kind of being downloaded into your head. If you don't know a lot of Chinese history and mythology, it is a lot of information. Like Percy Jackson, I know Greek mythology and I know Roman mythology, things like that, even with the Kane Chronicles, which I don't know where they are, somewhere down here. I know Egyptian mythology, so it's not like I don't have so much trouble trying to remember who's who and who does what and whose abilities are like which abilities and stuff like that. But I know nothing about Chinese history and mythology. I'm not even shy to say that. I know nothing, and so this is my first introduction really to Chinese mythology and history. I have read Iron Widow, but that is a fictionalized version of, I mean, this is obviously fictionalized as well, but it's a lot more fictionalized version of the first female emperor, who also is in this. So my brain kept like flicking back to Iron Widow, and I had to keep reminding myself, different person, different character, different person, different character. And so this I struggled a bit with because it was so much new information going into my head. So it took me a bit longer to read because I was trying to like digest the information. Other than that, I did really enjoy it. It's obviously the first book in a series, and so it is a lot of setup, a lot of learning, and not much action happening. But I appreciated, once the action started, I really appreciated all the information that I was given. I don't read middle grade. I obviously have Percy Jackson that is behind me, like all my Percy Jackson. That is it for me in middle grade. Percy Jackson, Kane Chronicles, like Rick Riordan is my only middle grade on these shelves, and so this is my only other middle grade. So I don't know if this is like a middle grade thing or not. I have nothing else to base it on. I just know that I love this author's writing, I love this author's other works, and I really enjoyed getting to see this snapshot, not even snapshot, I just really enjoyed taking this journey with Zachary into the mythology and history of China, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on. I do think this will take me a few rereads to kind of really understand, and I would probably need to do more research into Chinese mythology and history to really actually appreciate the book more. But writing style, everything like that, everything about it, I really enjoyed. It was just a lot of information for me to get. And again, with any new, this is why I don't read fantasy, because taking on new information for me is a lot more difficult, I find, especially since my EDS diagnosis. Obviously EDS is something that you have your whole life, but it needs to be like switched on. So until it was kind of switched on, I could take on new information in a way that most people can't, but since it kind of switched on and started affecting me, it affects the way my brain takes on information as well. So taking on new information is harder for me, which is why I struggle with things like fantasy and with things like this with new information. So which is why I'm a lot more comfortable in contemporary things like that. I don't think that's something I've explained. When it comes to my reading, like, that's why I'm a lot more comfortable in non-fantasy settings or in fantasy settings where I've read the book pre-ADS. It's an unfortunate side effect. The brain fog and the processing errors or processing issues that happen within my brain make it harder to take on information, and it is quite embarrassing for me because I am somebody who it seems so stupid to say, like, I'm highly educated, I have a degree in forensic sciences, and I am somebody that has always been very academic. Like, all the subjects I studied at school were very academic. I've always been seen as, like, people view me as an intelligent person and an academic person. Like, I'm also very unpractically minded. Like, I'm very bad at practical tasks. And so I feel really embarrassed when I struggle with any academic exercises, and I see, like, things like fantasy worlds and fantasy world building and stuff like that, and taking on new information like this as, like, an academic exercise. It's kind of, like, it makes me feel really stupid that I'm not understanding this as well. It's nothing to do with the book, it's all to do with the fact that I have processing issues with my own brain because of my ADS. And so that's why I reread books a lot as well, because the more I read, the more I can understand, because I'm reading more familiar things and I can take on smaller bits of new information at a time. So yeah, I really did enjoy this. That is the baseline of it. I really enjoyed this. What I was able to take in, I really enjoyed, and I'm looking forward to being able to take in more and understand more the more I can read the series and the more research I can do into Chinese mythology. It's great that the author has also done videos on YouTube and on TikTok to explain and go into the history and mythology of China. That actually really helped while I was reading this book, to go back onto their YouTube and TikTok and watch these videos and get to understand it a bit more. So yeah, it was so great learning about another culture that I have never learned about before, and it was great to be able to do that with a story that was really, really interesting, really engaging, and it was really cool to actually have. So the way that they do a lot of it is through this game where, so you can see Zachary has these glasses on, and these are like a VR headset or like an AR headset, like an not alternate reality. What's the word? Can't do words. Augmented reality. So you've got, it's like a clear glass, but it then allows you to see, like, other things out with. So, like, you can see, like, with the Iron Man helmets. So, like, he can see what's going on, but then they can also project things, and he can interact with it. But it's not there in actual reality. You know what I mean? I know you know what I mean. And in doing so, you get these information blocks here. So when he meets someone new within this game or within the mythology, it can bring up this information and tell you who the person is, how to pronounce their name, what kind of, like, so it says, like, dark type, for example, so, like, what kind of magic they have within the mythology, what their origin is, and give you a little bit of bump about them, and by bump I mean, like, information. And it's funny because I just think it's funny because the information that you get about them is from the perspective of the emperor, so it's given with a little bit of bias, a lot of bias. So it's kind of like how in Percy Jackson, like, everything's given through, like, the lens of how Rick Riordan wants you to see it. This is given through, like, the emperor, or obviously through the author, but, like, everything's clouded by the opinion of the emperor, and it's really funny. So yeah, I really appreciate this book. I really liked it, and I've talked about it for enough, and I'm going to move on now. Next up, because I needed something nice and easy to move me on from the little bit of brain melt I was having, I finally read Beach Rivals by Georgie Tilney, and let me tell you, I was very, pleasantly surprised when I read this book. This is about our two main characters, Claire and Jack. And Claire decides on a semi-whim to go and work in this bookshop in Bali. And I say semi on a whim, she sees the advertisement and on a whim she applies and she goes through the interview process and everything like that, and they accept her application. She does the interview, she passes the interview, they offer her the job, and so she goes out to Bali and she's kind of stuck in a rut back in England, and so this is kind of what she needs to get herself out of that rut. The rut started when her dad died and she dropped out of university because of that, and she's kind of been dotting from place to place to place, job to job to job ever since, and this could be the reset that she really needs. And so she goes to Bali, and while she's in Bali she's working in this bookshop with Jack. Now this book also kind of annoyed me because she's working in this bookshop with Jack, who his grandmother is from Bali and they used to visit every year until she died, and so he kind of comes to work in this bookshop to kind of bring back those memories and come back to Bali because he's not been there for so many years. I think it's like 10 years or something. And it is seen as so it says beach rivals, it says two bitter rivals. At no point are they rivals. They don't even not get on at all. They kind of have a misunderstanding when they first get there. So she goes for a nap in the flat. She's only seen part of the flat, and she thinks one of the rooms is a cupboard or a closet and the other room is her bedroom, and she goes for a nap in the bedroom, comes out and there's this random guy in the living room, and she's like, "Who the hell are you?" And he's like, I'm Jack." And she's like, "Why are you here?" And he's like, "I live here." And she's like, "No, I live here." And he's like, "Uh-huh, and we are living together because we are working together." And she's like, "But there's only one bedroom." And he's like, she turns around and the second door is open, and lo and behold, it is a second bedroom. And she's like, "Oh, right, that makes sense," and moves on. And that is the only antagonistic part of the book. There's no rivalry in this at all. And other than that, it's just such a nice book. They kind of go on adventures in Bali. He kind of underestimates her in a bit. He thinks that she's there just for a fun holiday, good time, and he's trying to rescue this bookstore that's kind of going under because he's looking at the accounts and he's like, they are not making money. But she's also she is intelligent, she's smart, she has these good ideas, and they end up kind of working together to try and save this bookstore, even though the owner's kind of not really wanting to save it. This story overall was kind of wholesome and uplifting and just lovely. It's such a community sort of book. A small town community book set in Bali is kind of the vibe it gives, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was such a surprising book, and it really, really did. It was so touching and so lovely, and I am really surprised and I'm so glad I did pick it up when I did. Next up, I continued my Elsie Silver reread with Powerless, and this follows Jasper, who is the kind of adopted member of the Eaton family. So you've got the sort of main Eaton brothers, and then Jasper, who was kind of dragged into the family, not quite so kicking and screaming by Bo. And he is a hockey player, hence the hockey skate on there. And this follows his sort of friends to lovers romance with the cousin of the family, Sloane. And they've kind of this is what I was saying about it's not really my favourite trope. So they've kind of been in and out of each other's lives every summer. So he started living with the family when he was 15 and he met Sloane when she was 10, and Sloane instantly had a crush on him and he was just like, sup. Never thought of her like that. And as they've kind of grown up together, they became friends, and not grown up together, so she would come and stay for the summer every year, and he would be away with the other guys, the other boys, helping on the ranch and stuff like that, and she would be with Violet, the sister of the family. And then something happened and they ended up becoming really, really close friends, best friends, and her crush never really went away. But at the start of this book, she is engaged to get married, and it is at her, I don't even know if it's at her bachelor party or what, but it's at some kind of dinner for her engagement, for her wedding. And it's the first time Jasper's really been around her properly since she got engaged, which was only recently. She's only been with the guy for 5 months. It's kind of an arranged marriage that her dad, who is a big businessman, has put together. And her dad's richy rich. And the guy that it's a business deal. that her dad's arranged this marriage for, and the guy that she is supposed to be marrying is like, think of the worst piece of shit you can think of. He's worse. He is awful. Like, they are sitting at this dinner with like a bunch of his friends, and then Jasper and Sloane, and he is talking over her. He is not acknowledging when she's speaking. He is degrading her in front of everybody, who, and all his friends are just laughing when he does it. Like, he is just treating her like absolute garbage. And they've only been together 5 months. And they're getting married, and Jasper's like, okay, one, who do you think you are speaking to my friend like that? For a start. And then two, who the hell are you to allow him to speak to you like that? And of course he doesn't say anything, because he's like, well, no, if she's happy, like, who am I to, like, say anything about it? But then when she walks him out, when he's like, I need to leave, he's like, why you let him speak to you like that? And she's like, I can't say anything. Like, I need to just... And he's like, why? And she's like, I just have to. And he's like, are you serious? And she's like, look, I just have to. And he's like, oh yeah, you really sound like you're in love. This is all within the first, like, couple chapters or something. And then we get to the wedding, and Sloane is in her room in her dress with Violet as her maid of honour, and Violet's like, if you want to run, I will go get the car. And Sloane's just like, look at her engagement ring like, yeah, I should be so excited, and I feel like I'm dead inside. And everybody in the family's like, why is she marrying this douchebag? And Violet's like, seriously though, if you want to run, I'm in. And then Violet is sent a video of her fiance on his bachelor night, with her dad present, by the way, having sex with the stripper, with her dad present, like, in front of everybody. Like, a video of him in this, like, strip club, literally with the bounce, with the thing, with the stripper, like, in front of everybody. And she's like, peace, I'm out. She's not even mad. She's not even angry. She's not even upset. There's not, like, she's just like, cool, I can leave now. And so Jasper's like, how do we get you out of here? And they find a way to, like, cause a distraction, thanks Willow. And her and Jasper escape. And it, basically the rest of the book is just, like, the fallout from that, mixed with, because her dad is enraging. Her dad and that piece of shit fiance of her, like, she breaks up with him immediately. She's like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm out. So it's the fallout from that, because they're just like, they treat her like a possession, and so they're just like, you need to get back here and, like, continue with this business deal. And she's like, I don't think so. And then, like, her and Jasper kind of figuring things out between them, because then he's like, oh my god, I now realise that I'm in love with you. And she's like, oh, now you realise. Are you serious? The day I'm getting, now you realise. And I'm like, thank you, Sloane. Thank you for saying it, because I also hate that trope. And yeah, they kind of have to figure something out, because she's like, I'm not going to be with you if you just want me because I'm suddenly the shiny new toy that someone else had. And I'm like, thank you, Sloane. Thank you. So they have to work all that out, while Jasper's also fighting with the demons that he has in his past. And Sloane's dealing with her dad, who is, like, the worst. Yeah, it's... If it wasn't for the fact that there's, like, a few things in here that I don't like the friends to lovers trope and the kink that Jasper has, this would be one of my favourite books. Other than that, I love everything else about it. Those two things are just the thing that makes it my least favourite of the series, but I still love it. It's still like a 4.55 star book. But I can't, there's like one thing, there's one thing that happens in the book with the kink. Would you even call it a kink? I think it's a kink. I don't know. I've discussed it with friends, and I think it would be a kink. And it's just not for me. And it just toes over the line of like, just no. And that's fine. If it's for you, that's fine. And I understand why. I get the whole thing. For me, it just no. It just makes it like less enjoyable for me to read. Again, I'm over explaining it because I'm trying not to spoil it, and 2, I'm trying not to like, I'm not kink shaming Jasper or anybody else who enjoys it. I'm just trying to explain that like it makes it less enjoyable for me to read. Whereas like I'm doing that thing. I'm over explaining. It's fine. You know what I mean. You don't care. And lastly, the last thing that I read in the month, or last thing that I read to completion in the month of May, I had to think about what month it was there, is Next of Kin by Hannah Bonham Young. I always mess up Hannah's surname, so I had to check there. Hannah Bonham Young writes these lovely books here. I was really intrigued by the second one, discovered it was the second in a series, so I had to get this. I've said this every time I have shown this book in a video. So Next of Kin is about these 2 main characters, Chloe and Warren. I was about to call him War because that's what he gets called by his friends in the book. And Chloe and Warren were both in foster care growing up. They had 2 very different experiences. Warren bounced around from foster care to foster care to foster care and had quite a bad experience the whole time. And Chloe was in foster care for a while and then was adopted by adoptive parents who were fine. They were fine. Maybe not the best. They're a little bit assholey in the book, but like they're fine. They're not like, they're fine. And when they are older, Chloe gets a call right at the start of the book to say that her birth mum has just given birth, and she would like to see her, and she would also like her to take custody of the baby. And Chloe's like, what? Because her mum is not allowed to keep the baby, basically because she has addiction problems, and it's not safe to, like, the baby's taken straight into foster. It's not safe for the baby to be with her mother, and her mother agrees immediately. She knows she has a problem. She knows that she's not safe to keep this baby around, and she knows that she needs to think of, like, she didn't know she was pregnant until she was, like, actively giving birth. Otherwise, like, she wouldn't have brought the baby, like, she wouldn't have purposely gotten pregnant because of the addiction problems she knows she had. But now they're in this scenario where there's a baby who is now in the NICU, and she knows that Chloe is a responsible adult and is, you know, a safe space that this baby can be looked after. So she requests that Chloe be given rights, all the parental rights to this baby. And Chloe, while she is completely stunned, is just like, of course, yes, like, I'll come to the hospital. So she goes to the hospital and sees her mum for the first time in like 10 years or something. And so starts to work a way to try and figure out how to be a foster parent, an adoptive parent to this baby, because she knows that she doesn't want this baby going into foster care. And the only way she can do this is through this pilot scheme, this initiative that the social services have, because she doesn't have the financial stability to be allowed by the social services to look after the baby, because she works as freelance. So like, she has to tick all these boxes, and she's passed the psych evaluation. She has a house with like 3 bedrooms, so she's got the housing thing down, but financially they are not convinced that she can look after this baby. And so this initiative matches 2 people together who have kind of like matching things. So she gets matched up with Warren. Warren lives in a 1-bedroom apartment but has a good job with a stable income, and of course he passes the psych evaluation. And Warren wants to foster and adopt his brother, who is 15 and deaf and living in a group home where they are not able to cater to the fact that he is deaf. They do not speak ASL. They are not trying to learn ASL. The kids in that group home do not speak ASL, and they are overwhelmed. And basically his brother is suffering because of that, and so he wants to take his brother out of that group home and look after him himself. And so Chloe doesn't want to do this. She doesn't want to live with a strange man. I mean, obviously, that is such a scary prospect, to be living with a totally random man and a totally random teenager that's been through the foster system. Well, she has been through the foster system herself. She doesn't know what he's going to be like. She doesn't know what kind of psychological potential distress he's been in and what that might cause as an outcome, based on her experience, the character, this is what she has said, like she is her thought process. And so she reluctantly agrees to this, because Warren has the finance side of it, she has the housing side of it. They match them up because together they have all the things they need. Turns out Warren's brother is just the sweetest little angel on the planet. He is, honestly, he is an absolute cinnamon roll. I love him to pieces. And on the upside, Chloe's dad, her adoptive father, is deaf, and so Chloe speaks ASL, which is just a little cherry on top of the tree. On tree cake. And so War and Luke move in with Chloe, and at the start, War's like trying to draw a wall, and he's like, we are not here to be friends, we are not here to be like a team, we are here to live in this house, like, and that is it. We are moving out in January when like your assessment comes up and they pass you, and she's like, okay. But Luke is, like I say, a sweet little cinnamon roll, and so Luke wants to be friends with her, and they kind of have a little friendship, and War sort of comes round to it because he's a sucker for anybody that befriends his little brother. Like, if someone shows kindness to his little brother, he can't help but melt towards them, and that's kind of what happens with him and Chloe. And of course it's a romance, so you know they're going to end up together. It's just, this is just such a sweet story of these two, and not even these two, like all of them as a family. Like, the baby comes home and Chloe really struggles. Like, she needs the baby, they need Willow. Willow needs a lot of medication, she's up all the time, she's in pain, she's got colic, she's got, like, she was in the NICU and she's got fetal alcohol syndrome, and she's, you know, struggling with alcohol addiction as well. Like, it's just a real struggle. Her heart's got a lot of issues, so she needs medication that makes her irritable and makes her, like, she's in pain. And so Chloe is not getting much sleep. She's trying to work and look after Willow, and, you know, the way these two and even Luke support each other is just so sweet and so nice. And it's just, this is like a perfect scenario that would work out. Like, I'm sure this is not how it would, not necessarily how it would actually work out in this scenario, but it is just, I love this. This was so, so nice. I did not expect to like this as much as I did. I should not have doubted, but this really did warm my heart so much. And War is one of those ones where, like, he's got such a crusty outer layer, and then inside he's just a pure marshmallow. Like, there are so many, like, content warnings in this as well, because obviously within the foster care system there's not a lot of pleasantness that goes along with it, because, like I say, Chloe's mum is an addict. That's why Chloe ended up in the foster system. That's why Chloe's little sister ended up in the foster system. There's obviously a reason that Warren and Luke ended up in the foster system. Their dad is... I have nothing nice to say. And Chloe, like I say, Chloe's adoptive parents, although, you know, people may want to put adoptive parents on a pedestal, they're not always, you know, these angels that come along and sweep up a poor, you know, parentless child. That's not always how it works, and that is not how it is reflected in this novel. In this novel, it is reflected in what's probably a more realistic version of an experience by someone who has been adopted. Like I say, I don't know if I said it in this video, I said it in our video, Hannah did also work with people who had been fostered, adopted, etc. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Hannah has worked with people who've been through the foster system, etc. to make this as realistic and close to certain experiences as possible. Of course, it will not reflect everybody's experience, but it does give you as close an experience, or some experiences, as possible, and she's tried to handle it with care, which, you know, you can only appreciate when you are talking about subjects like this. I think it is such a heartwarming and just lovely book, while also not shying away from the fact that, like I say, the foster care system, the adoption system it's not a pretty place. It's not this beautiful, lovely place to be, and she doesn't necessarily shy away from that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Okay, that went on a bit longer than I expected it to. I need to work on my brevity. I did just poke myself in the eye, yes, you did see that. I need to work on my brevity, but like I say, even though I didn't read that much this month, the books I did read were books that I really, really enjoyed, and I really hope that continues. I'm very excited about my TBR for June. That is up by the time you are seeing this video, so if you've not seen it yet, feel free to pop over and have a look at that, because I am really excited about all the books on that TBR. I just need to actually start them. Don't look at me. Don't look at me like that. It is only the 3rd. I have actually finished 2 books, neither of which were on my TBR, but that's not the point. Thanks very much for watching. If you have watched all the way to the end of this video and want to let me know you were here, if you pop a little bird or dove emoji for next of kin in the doobly-doo, not the doobly-doo, the doobly-doo is where I put stuff, in the comments to let me know you were here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!